Well, ladies and gentlemen, you don't often get an opportunity to listen to us do a cold start.
Ice cold.
Cold open,
Cold as ice.
but here we are. I guess it happens to everybody eventually. We're just sitting around the table talking about how we're going to handle this episode that we just recorded because we went long.
We got carried away talking
yeah.
about social media.
Yeah.
Our list got way too long, and we didn't even get to the meat of the episode,
Right.
which is Elon.
Which
Yeah.
means we got to do 2 episodes. So
Yeah.
this is part 1.
We feel like we put together a lot of good content here. It was a lot of content.
We
don't
can't
wanna-
expect listeners
Yeah.
to listen to an hour and a half, 2-hour podcast.
Exactly. So we figured what we would do with this one is you're going to hear an open that sounds like we are kicking into an episode where we're going to give you all of the latest news and updates on Elon Musk and his venture known as X. But really what you're going to do is you're going to hear us talk about sort of the impact of social media overall on our country especially, but just on the world over the last decade or two. And we're going to cover that in this first episode, and then we'll give you a part 2. So this is part 1 of a 2-episode arc. And part 2, we will focus on Elon and give him his just due, I suppose.
Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to the Bullcast Podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me is Court Winsett
I am always Cord Winsett.
and Cameron Spann.
The artist formerly known as Cameron Spann. Get it right.
Okay, so this episode, we're going to talk about something that's very important to a lot of people. A lot of people may utilize this on a daily basis, some even by an hourly basis. Now, of course, I'm talking about social media.
Social media, indeed.
Social media, but what we're really going to be talking about is the social media formerly known as Twitter, which is now called X.
Just X.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it just doesn't. I know what Elon Musk was trying to do. He was trying to rebrand. He wants it to be more than just a microblogging site.
But why did he steal it from Prince? I mean, Prince did it better.
Exactly.
Had a better symbol.
You know, if you're going to go with an icon like Prince did, then come up with something more interesting than an X, for goodness sake. I absolutely know for certain that Elon Musk has the ability to come up with some interesting stuff. Because, I mean, look at what he named his child, for goodness sake. I can't pronounce
It's just a bunch of symbols.
Yeah, I have no idea what that says.
Maybe he was trying to be for like everybody because, you know, like pirates do X marks the spot. And as a little kid, you play tic-tac-toe and learn your X's and your O's. And so
X's.
all right, your exes live in Texas?
All my exes live in Texas. Anyway.
I think Elon was just proud of his Falcon X. He's like, X. That's what it's going to be
X.
after my
But
baby.
it's like X-Files, X-Men, everybody is kind of going through this. I saw a tweet, something that was like, oh, great. Now journalists are going to have to put X, formerly known as Twitter, and it's going to cost more money now because you've got more words to say instead of just putting Twitter. What are they even called now? Because they're not, people before in their normal language would be like, oh, I read a tweet, or I tweeted, I did something.
The New York Times says it's called a post. A tweet is now a post.
Mm-hmm.
But Mashable quoted Elon, the founder of X, as saying tweets are now called X's.
I was doing some research for this, and there was among at least some journalists kind of an uproar about Elon basically dictating or pronouncing that moving forward, it shall now be known as an X and not a tweet anymore. And they were like, you can't tell us how to talk. And, you know, getting all bent out of shape because Elon was trying to basically rename what a tweet is. And they were saying, we're going to call it what we want to. And while I don't think that people are necessarily going to continue to call them tweets, I haven't heard people continuing to call them tweets. What I have heard most people calling them, though, is not X's. I've heard people calling them posts.
Which then he's trying to rebrand and make it something different. But you post on Facebook, you post on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So he just merged it all together and diluted, what it was.
Yeah. Twitter was the only thing where you tweeted. Everywhere else you went, every other social media site, you post a video, you post a picture, you post a status, you post a whatever. Everybody's posting. On Twitter, you tweeted. And now that's gone. And Elon can only thank himself.
Wondering why are we spending all this time talking about the name change? We are Bullcast Podcast. We are a financial podcast, but so much of social media is where a lot of people get their news. We are going into an election season soon, and there's going to be a lot of buzz on all the social media aspects. And so it's important to talk about these different ways that people are getting their information. And so it does have a role when it turns into your finance life.
Our listeners are waiting with bated breath.
Oh, yes.
They are on edge.
100.
Because, as they know, we have a segment that we do every now and then.
What is going to happen to
Twitter Nugs.
Indeed.
So that begs the question.
What are we going to call it?
What are we going to call Twitter Nugs moving forward? It was one of my favorite segments just because it allowed me to say Twitter Nugs. And I'm not going to be able to say that anymore.
Was
Guys,
that the final time?
That was probably the last time I'll ever say Twitter Nugs.
So what are we going to call it?
We played around with a few ideas. The obvious one was X marks the spot as a replacement for Twitter Nugs.
X-rated.
X-rated because we were rating X's.
Yeah, not because we're doing anything X-rated.
We had a little Bullcast powwow, and we decided on...
Drum roll, please.
Crazy X's.
Crazy X's. I think that's perfect.
I think it's great.
You know, first of all, everybody has a crazy X. And also, you know, the idea that these posts on this site called X might, from time to time, be crazy is sort of what we like to play on when we do Twitter Nugs. But now it'll be crazy X's. We're still looking for the humor in this. And this is all, of course, assuming that X will remain around as a site. I know there are a lot of people out there that are sort of rooting for its demise. I think because they don't like Elon Musk. So they're kind of hoping that it fails or whatever and that he's the reason that it fails. But you know, whether it survives or not, if it's still around and we still have a source for posts from it, then we will continue to offer you lists of funny posts from X, and that list shall be known henceforth as Crazy X's.
And to be clear, today's episode does not feature a Crazy X's list. We're just going to do a list.
Right. We're just doing a list.
The most famous social networking sites of all time. So this list, the most famous social networking sites of all time. Starting it off with Facebook. And I mean, if you remember, Facebook has been around since 2004. And if you've watched the movie The Social Network, which we know is one of Cam's favorites, this is definitely one that a lot of people use. A lot of people, that's where they'll get their news. They keep up with their families. I remember it used to be that you had to have an education email address in order to get access to this. So
that coveted.edu.
Yep. So I think mine was right before going into college. So back in 2006. I guess.
When you signed on for your school, you were immediately assigned an email address.
You have an email address.
I got mine in 2006 too, the summer before I started school.
And so one of the first things you did was go to Facebook and get your Facebook account?
Because it was such a big deal because my older brother was able to get one because he was at WashU. And so like you heard all this. And so of course you're like, I want to know what it is.
Yeah, we had one of those campus tour guides, that walks you around. They're all bubbly. And he was just like, you got to get a Facebook. It's the new thing. Everybody's doing it. And so of course all of us are like, ooh, let's sign on.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually got a Facebook account. My first Facebook account was actually a year before y'all in 2005 because I had an email address in law school. All of my classmates were on Facebook, and I was like, what is this thing? So I signed up for it and had the account for a couple of years. We'll call that my legacy account. It no longer exists. Anything that I had on there is long gone because I had to delete it because when my wife found out that I had a Facebook account, she thought that it was like some sort of dating site or a way to meet the hot ladies or something, and she was not comfortable with that. So,
and it used to really kind of be that.
I think at least initially, based on my understanding from the movie Social Network, that's kind of how it was conceived, was sort of a digital Facebook, because every college used to have a Facebook that was basically the college directory that you would go through and like look at people, and it had their picture next to their name and data.
Yeah, it was created as a rival to hotornot.com, where it will just pull up two random people from your school and you rate who's the hotter one. It's terrible.
And the brothers, the whatever brothers, that was their concept. Obviously, what's his name?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg took that and expanded on it significantly. But
most people were coming off of MySpace, moving over to this as well. And so it was the difference of that. If you look back at your memories, then all of the posts you did were like, is blah, 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 like is having a bad day, is, doing this. And it's like, why did we say this? And back then it's like you had a very small group of people that were your friends. And so you were telling them like, is heading to the main campus to go get some lunch. Who wants to join me? So it was kind of a way to like mass text a bunch of people.
Yeah. And then it changed from is, Court Winsett is to what's on your mind?
Yeah, and so, how are you feeling?
Yeah, a lot of my posts were like anti. I don't like Facebook asking me what's on my mind. What is it? What business is it of yours? What's on my mind?
So it's funny when we talked about it becoming X. What I think about X and social media. When I was in college, the sorority would set it up, and now I've found out that they don't do this. They have a more discreet way of doing this, but you have certain standards you have to live up to if you're in a sorority, and so you can't post certain pictures, and these are rules that go like back to like the origin, like you can't be on elevated surfaces, you can't have alcohol, you can't wear your pin if you're not in pin attire, like very specific rules. And so if a standards member did not like a photo you posted or did not like something you posted at that point, I guess, then they would X your photo. They would comment with an X. And that was your notice of like, you've got to get this down. Now, apparently they just DM people and say like, hey, you need to take this picture down. But looking forward to the next one on this list, that's where I'm like, okay, so they're kind of merging together.
The big focus of this episode is X's or Twitter's demise. Is there a demise? Are we watching it go down the drain? But at least as of right now, the number 2 on our list of popular social networking sites is still Twitter/X. Of course, Twitter started off as a microblogging site where you could just post 140 characters. It was just, it was like, get it out quick. Now, of course, it's 280, so they doubled it. Founded in 2006. I don't think I joined Twitter until like maybe 2008 or 9, and I ended up very early on deciding that I didn't like it. Very early on, when I first got on it, all of the stars that I was interacting with and trying to follow, all they were doing was using it to advertise stuff.
Yeah. I joined April 2011. I didn't realize it shows you when you've joined. And yeah, my X, my Twitter, my whatever is pretty sad because I'm a wordy person and I don't know how to be short with things.
I joined Twitter in 2009 or 10. When I was wrapping up college, I was a broadcast journalism major, and we were basically forced to get a Twitter account because it was the first social media platform, like Court said, where you could interact with brands and famous people and other journalists. And so that was a great introduction into it. And also, Twitter popularized the hashtag.
That is true. It was initially a means to search for particular Twitter threads that you wanted to see what people were talking about, that you could search for that hashtag and it would show you everybody that was talking about that particular hashtag.
Yeah,
right?
For instance, if you were at Comic-Con and there's a Comic-Con hashtag, you could click on that and it would pull up every post with that hashtag.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I initially set up my Twitter account in 2009. I just checked my profile, and it's 2009. And the reason that I did it was because I was going to Comic-Con, and there were a bunch of people that I followed that were comic book people and pop culture people that I followed that were going to Comic-Con and said, "Hey, follow us on Twitter, and you can get updates about where we are and what we're doing while you're here at Comic-Con." So I followed them for that, and then I think shortly after Comic-Con, I never really looked at Twitter again.
My tweets are so awful. I'm looking at these like, what is wrong with me?
I will say up until recently, Twitter was one of my go-tos. That was my news source. I'd wake up in the morning and read through it because I had accounts that I carefully selected to follow, and it was just a very succinct way of seeing what was going on in the day across the world.
I have done the same thing on a different site, but we'll talk about that different site in a little bit. But one of the things about the whole news aspect of Twitter that sort of bugs me, and I don't think I've talked about this on this podcast before. I use for news. I use there's a news aggregation site that I go to regularly, and I hate it when I see an article headline that I want to read more about, and the article, quote unquote article, ends up just being whoever the writer of the article is quoting a bunch of people from Twitter. Like the article headline will be something like, people are outraged over whatever politician's decision was on this matter, or people hate Whoopi Goldberg, or whatever it is. And you click to read the article if you're a Whoopi defender or whatever. And all it is it's not like any sort of study's been done or survey where people are giving their opinion. It's just they've quoted like 10, 15 different people who posted something on Twitter negative about something. And that's their basis for saying the internet explodes over.
Right.
And I don't like that. That is not reporting to me.
It's not. You want to
re-quoting people's tweets is not reporting.
Yeah, you want a legitimate source, not just scrolling Twitter and be like, here's what's happening. All right, number 3 on the list of the most famous social networking sites of all time is my personal beloved Instagram. It's always been my favorite. Instagram is a photo and video sharing social network site, popular among young people and is used to share photos and videos of everyday life. Founded in 2010, and I downloaded this app the day it launched in the United States in 2010. And I've loved it ever since because it's not so much words, it is just pictures.
Yeah.
It does drive me crazy, though, in the past, I'd say 5-10 years. It's a lot of ads.
I think all of them are turning really ads, like Facebook and Instagram. And it's your phone's listening to you, so it's advertising that, and you have to keep putting hey, I don't want to see this anymore.
Of course, Instagram is owned by Meta. It was purchased before it became Meta. It was purchased by Facebook. And anytime you have a company like that is publicly traded like Facebook is, they have to monetize somehow. And so a big question for a long time was, how are these companies going to monetize? And I think the obvious answer for Facebook and for Instagram and for anything else is the ads that they blow your feet up with.
Do you think they'd ever, because you think about Hulu and stuff like that, you can pay for a certain subscription to not have ads. Do you feel like any of these social medias at some point may come up with a membership, and if you pay this, then you don't get ads anymore?
That is an interesting concept.
Twitter tried that a year ago. I think they still have it. It's X now, but it was called Twitter Blue. And I think it was $3 or $4 a month, but you got no ads. It's just your straight feed, no suggested who you should follow. It's just what you want.
I have 2 statements that I want to make related to that comment and related to Katie's question and related to your comment. So let me make both of these statements. Don't let me get sidetracked. Number 1, I have noticed that all of the streaming services are pushing away from no ad service. They are pricing their no ad services so high that you almost have no choice but to go to their ad supported services. And that really ticks me off.
I agree.
I don't mind paying a little bit extra to not have ads, but they're making it impossible. It's financially untenable for me to continue with Netflix and with Hulu and with all of those services without going the ad supported route, because I just can't afford it. So I'm just going to, I've already cut the cord on cable. Now I'm going to be cutting the feed on
all the streaming
on my streamers. Okay, so that's one. The idea that Facebook and Twitter and whoever else, Instagram, might go to a pay model where you get rid of the ads would seem to be flying directly in the face of what the streaming services are doing now, which is trying to drive people to their ad-supported service. And then number 2, I can't help but point out that I still go, Facebook basically has blown up with ads. Somebody that I follow on Facebook, or somebody that I'm friends with on Facebook, I guess, commented recently, I just counted, and every third post that I see on Facebook is an ad for something. And I counted, and sure enough, it was about every third post that it was an ad for something. But that doesn't bother me, because the reason nowadays that I go on Facebook basically is to shop. That's what I do. Like at night when I'm sitting at home and I want to shop for something, I'll go onto Facebook, and their ads are great. They're
so you actually click on those ads?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
The majority of the stuff that they show me in ads is from legitimate sites. Like they'll show me an ad for Timberland, and if I click on it, it takes me to the Timberland website, and I'm looking at boots. Or they'll show me an ad for Amazon. But it's specifically stuff that they think that I would like to buy from Amazon. So it'll be
the algorithms.
Yeah, I mean, so like it's more fun to go on Facebook and shop than it is to go on Amazon and shop, because Amazon, I've tried to get Amazon to give me good recommendations, and their recommendations are garbage compared to what Facebook shows me. So I just shop on Facebook.
I know we have to move on because we're only on the third one on the list, but I have 2 points. So you just had 2 points and I've got 2 points. My mind is racing. This is very interesting to me. So my apologies. But back to the Facebook thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, to me as an individual, Facebook is... For me, it's unusable because yesterday I was scrolling, and out of the 25 first posts on my feed, I would say 20 of them were ads. Ads of accounts I don't even follow. But as a business page, we have a Facebook page for all of our businesses, with Bullcast included. I think it's really important because for me, as a millennial, when I'm shopping with someone new or like I want an advisor, I first go to their social media channel to make sure they're active because that is a sign of legitimacy for me. My second point with Facebook is I find it fascinating, the migration from social media site to social media site of the different generations. Because when Facebook first started, it was the young person's social media site. And then their parents started getting on Facebook and they wanted nothing to do with it. And so they moved to Twitter, and then they moved to Snapchat, and then they moved to TikTok. But with all that said, Facebook has a chokehold on the boomers. They live there, they love it, and that's great for them. But it's just fascinating to me how the young people just move and migrate away from Aunt Sally or their grandma.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I've watched it happen with my kids. I feel like we may have actually even discussed this point before. The only one of my children that really has any sort of significant presence on Facebook, and it's not even that significant, is my oldest child. My younger ones, they never really developed Facebook, any sort of interest in Facebook, because by the time that they were allowed to do social media, the kids had moved on to something else. And so they're not present on Facebook at all.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when you look up a younger person, like we'll interview candidates for here. And if they're like the Generation Z, you'll look up their Facebook and they only have like 200 friends. It's like, that's weird because me personally, I have like 2,000 friends, but it makes sense because we grew up with Facebook being the social media platform.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I have it to have it.
Last on your shopping thing, I feel like I shop more from stuff on Instagram, but then that goes more down the influencer route that I see a celebrity that's promoting an item on Instagram, which then follows great into the next one on this list.
You get the OG.
TikTok.
No.
No.
Yes. That means Court gets the OG.
Indeed.
TikTok.
And TikTok.
That we did an entire episode on TikTok, maybe buy it, which, I mean, it's so much even more extreme than that. TikTok, and it's not on here, so I'm going to kind of lump it together. Pinterest. I never considered Pinterest a social media. A lot of people do.
It's just like an online bulletin board for me, a journal. I don't know what you call it.
It's a bulletin board, but then apparently there's people that like, I share it just with, if I'm planning a shower for somebody, then I may add it in there. For the longest time, my mom and I shared a Pinterest. And so that's the way that her and I would do stuff. And same, I've got a cousin that she's created a board where it's like share with KT.
Have you ever met someone who calls Pinterest pin interest?
No.
Ew.
No.
I've encountered that 3 times and it makes me want to vomit.
Ew.
I'm like, where are you getting pin interest from?
Yeah. If somebody said that to me, I think I would just say no.
Well, so obviously we can talk till we're blue in the face about TikTok, but TikTok is one that is very much impacting a lot of people. Number one, I have to limit the time that I'm on TikTok. If somebody sends me a TikTok, or if I send you a TikTok, you're probably also going to get 5 more because I'm on it for that time period. But then I'll have to like cut myself off. I cannot let it have notifications go to me because that is a time suck.
God, I love TikTok, but man, that is a time suck.
Because it's just they suggest, video after video and you can search for something. I personally will go on there like for a specific thing like, hey, I'm trying to come up with a Disney character adult costume. What should it be? And then I'll go through all these. And then it's just a ripple effect from there. But that is a big financial promoter because people are talking about products. And it's kind of a cool way to go and get reviews on different products and see what other people think about it. But a lot of people are getting their news. They're getting conspiracy theories from TikTok.
Debates. A lot of topics are debated.
It's a mixed bag. That's why it's it's so interesting because you don't know when you flip up to the next one what you're going to get.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking about the feedback that we got from a previous episode that we did where we talked pretty heavily about TikTok. And there were a lot of people who responded to us. A lot of our listeners said basically like, I don't know what TikTok is. I've never been on TikTok. This episode was, not helpful to me because I don't ever use TikTok. I don't know that was the predominant response, but I got that response from a few people. And let me tell you, one of the things that I think would probably appeal to even those people about TikTok, assuming you can get over the fact that it's communist China running everything and learning everything about you. And if that part of it doesn't bother you and you're not convinced that China is trying to take over the world, then you might use TikTok to watch movie clips. It's kind of become my favorite way to scroll through a lot of clips, my favorite clips from movies. Like they'll just have one cut from a movie that's a particularly awesome scene, and I love to just flip through those. So I'm not necessarily looking at a ton of original creators on TikTok. I'm just looking at people who have shared clips from movies that they liked, and that's fun.
Have y'all ever posted tweets?
Talks. TikToks.
Have you ever posted videos?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever have. To go back to the language that we used for Facebook, at least once upon a time, I'm more of just a TikTok lurker. I'm not a creator. I don't put stuff out there. I just go on to watch other people's stuff.
My strength on TikTok is not the posts, but it's comments. Last month, one of my comments got 30,000 likes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge.
What did you say?
It was a funny. It was just this random video of a butcher, just butchering a steak, and he pulled the fascia off, which is like the clear muscle substance. And I just said, "Bro, remove the screen protector of the cow," and that thing got 30,000 likes.
I would have liked that if I'd seen it.
I've posted about like 20 videos, and my most liked video is 1655.
Hey,
1,655.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever post any videos because it would be devastating to see the just extraordinarily low number of likes.
Excuse me, that's wrong. My most liked one is 2,484, and that's kind of cringy because it's of my little cousin in a bathing suit, and so that really freaks me out.
That's gross.
Yeah,
you might want to take that one down.
Yeah. She's all over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's what, there's so much of what gets you likes or stuff, I think, because I tagged her in it and she has so many people that follow her stuff. And mine is just like.
Well, shoot, even on our podcast, we, a lot of what we do, anytime, for instance, we have a guest is if they have a lot of followers on Instagram or on some other social media site, we'll say like, hey, can you make sure that you share the podcast so we can get out to people who wouldn't necessarily otherwise be exposed to us. And it works that way with anything. If I share a picture of Emily on Instagram, then I guarantee you it will be one of my most liked pictures just because she's got so many more followers than I do that all like every picture that she posts that I'm going to get a bunch of likes. And, it's not even a picture of me. It's just a picture of my girl. Anyway.
Famous by association.
Indeed.
We are still on our list.
Yeah, we are really going hard on this list.
30 minutes in, we're still on the list.
I think it's an interesting exercise in discussing the different sort of, because we haven't even gotten to some of the more financial.
We haven't even gotten to Elon, really.
Yeah. But the next one that you said is the OG. I will list it. It is MySpace, and Cameron called it the OG. MySpace was one of the first social networking sites and was popular in the early 2000s. I created a MySpace account around the same time that I created a Facebook account when I was in law school, and canceled it at the same time that I canceled my Facebook account.
What is it? Your top, was it 6 or 10? Was it 6 people?
Your friends, yeah. And you could also do your music on there,
your
favorite music.
This says that MySpace is still in operation. I had no idea.
Oh my gosh. I wonder what my login is.
Not nearly as popular as it used to be.
My last MySpace, because you would change your name, my last MySpace name was KT is a KD.
I'm not proud of this. I don't want to promote this. We may not even leave this in. But my MySpace name was Nicotine Hero.
Oh my God.
I could be wrong, but I think like 10 years ago, Justin Timberlake purchased
I think
MySpace.
he did. To really branch the music out, I think.
This is as good a time as any for me to just throw in there. Cameron called MySpace the OG social network. There was actually one before MySpace that I am familiar with that people in my generation, it came about before MySpace and Facebook. It was called Friendster.
Oh, yeah.
Do y'all remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there was that one. But Cameron, let's move on to the next social media site since we're still on the list.
Well, I get the most boring of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's also probably the most...
I know. It's the most appropriate for the show. It is LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, and I think to a lot of people my generation, you only use LinkedIn when you're looking for a job or you're trying to hire somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot baked in there. The basis of LinkedIn is networking with other professionals, which is helpful. I've networked with a lot of people. You can also write professional articles. I've done that a few times. I've gotten some traction there.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say there's a lot of fun on there. LinkedIn, you don't post the memes or the GIFs. It is for professional content only.
Yeah, I didn't really start super following. I mean, I had a whole bunch of contacts on LinkedIn, but I didn't really start following what people were actually posting on LinkedIn until... Well, I think it was around the time that Katie and I started getting involved in financial planning and in that aspect, because I started linking with some people who were in the financial planning field. And a lot of the stuff that they post was interesting from that aspect. They would post articles that I was interested in reading. One of our early professors, we both linked with him, Katie. You remember that. Yeah.
LinkedIn is one I still do not use that much. And I guess it's because forever I was ingrained that LinkedIn was when you're looking for a job and not to actually like network.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm just on LinkedIn over here. Don't mind me.
The last one on this list.
Yeah.
Snapchat. This one is just, it is what it is.
Well, again, this was, I think this is
2011?
This is just my old man parental sort of take on Snapchat, but I assume that it was probably created so that people could send nude shots to each other and they would disappear after a few seconds. But
which begs the question, Robin's cool with you having a Snapchat, but not a Facebook or...
Well, social media now is so much more ubiquitous than it was back when I first got my Facebook account. And quite frankly, Snapchat, we both have Snapchat accounts and we both use them basically. The main thing that I use it for is to communicate with my kids. That's how they don't text me a lot of times. They send me snaps.
And I'm not on Snapchat. I have an account. I created one a few years ago, but I know you guys really use Snapchat a lot.
Yeah.
I'm on Snapchat daily with my kids, especially with my oldest, who probably uses it of my 3 kids the most. But all 3 of them put content on Snapchat, and I see it, and I share content on Snapchat.
I feel like Snapchat has become much more of the private group because you don't have as many people on there.
Yeah.
And so
you can direct your stuff to one person or to a small group of people a lot more so than you can on like Instagram or Facebook.
And the benefit of it, it's ephemeral content, right? It just goes away after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it's just a quick thing. So I think from that of the parental area, it's an issue, or of not even just parental, of anybody. Like somebody could be snapping somebody and there's no track record of it. It's gone. It's not saved. It's not public. To me, I feel like I'll put something on my Snap story that, maybe like, hey, I'm liking my outfit today. I'm going to put this on my Snap, but I don't want to necessarily put it on Instagram or Facebook because then that's like staying on there. Yeah. And tomorrow I may be like, why was I feeling myself yesterday? Yeah. Like, what was that about?
Well, I know more about your outfits and the status of your gas tank from your snaps.
I always am posting, about that.
Like, I feel left out. I'm downloading it again. I'm going to add y'all.
But yeah, I think it's kind of more silly and I just snapped a picture of Court's little miniature Diet Coke can that he just pulled out from thin air and put Cortland is magic.
I have a little hidey hole in the studio now. Now that we're in our new space, there are hidey holes everywhere. So I put some Diet Coke in here so that I wouldn't have to stop recording. I can just grab a Diet Coke and continue to record. It's wonderful.
Yep. Okay, so I know we just spent a really long time talking about all these social media sources, but it's because, whether you like it or not, it's kind of like embracing AI that's coming. Whether you like it or not, social media is a huge part of everything.
Advertising, shopping, communication, information, news source. I mean, it basically covers the gamut.
Yeah, you've got to understand it. You've got to know how to use it. From a employer perspective and an image perspective of what you're putting out there.
Well, Cameron and I recruit on, for instance, LinkedIn. Back to that, we recruit on LinkedIn all the time.
Yeah.
It's one of our two big sources for recruitment efforts.
If we're looking to hire somebody, I mean, even, clients and stuff like that, it's like we may look at your Facebook just to see kind of who you are and what you're about. And so it really is you putting your presence out there. It's kind of now one of those weird things of if you don't have any social media, it's like, okay, what did you erase?
What is your problem?
Yep.
Although I do almost daily anyway, think about just
Erasing
getting rid
all.
of all of it. And
yeah, I saw somebody, it was on TikTok last night, that a girl erased all her social medias because she was going to go to the Taylor Swift concert. And so she wanted to be completely surprised. Because that is a bad thing about social media and stuff like that. It's the ultimate spoiler alert. Like everything is out there. If a movie's coming out, if a TV show's coming out, like I was looking at my Twitter and I was posting like, oh yeah, go Suki Stackhouse. Like, where's Eric? Back in like when we would have to wait a week for a next episode and spoilers would be left and right nowadays. And you have to stay off of social media if you don't want to find out things. And so good, bad, and indifferent with social media.
Ostensibly, the episode was conceived upon the idea that we would be discussing the demise of Twitter or X. And so we probably need to move on to that. But I have had fun discussing all of this, and I think we could probably do more to talk about all of this. If you had to name two major things that have been an effect in the last, say, 2 decades, social media is one, and then moving forward, the future, obviously, it looks like it's going to be affected seriously by AI, but...
Well, and if y'all are fine with it, I think pivoting and finishing off, because we were going to talk a little bit more about Elon Musk, but I feel like Elon is his own bird that we can talk about not only what he did with X, but also what he's doing with Tesla and how he's really becoming just this big innovator and going, whether you love him or not. But the other thing we haven't talked about with social media is, and there's a couple movies that have come out now where somebody's been missing. And we've seen it where because of the power of social media, you're able to reconnect loved ones. You're able to find somebody who's been missing. I've seen several movies recently where they've been able to like do deep dives and like get on their Facebook that then links to their Pinterest, that then links to their Instagram and be able to find who this kid was friends with, find out where they last were located. And that branches into like the Find My Friends and like the family, like Life 360 apps and how at any moment you can know kind of where your loved ones are. So on one way, it's like, well, crap, everybody's tracking me. They know where I am. But then also on the other side of it, it's a safety mechanism that we're so much more connected now that it's not you're stranded in the middle of nowhere and nobody knows where you are. It's like, well, your last location from your post you did at a gas station because they have the new ding-dongs, then, we know you were here at this point.
Yeah. I often wonder what you could do to manage to keep your phone on you if you were in a situation where someone was trying to abduct you. Like what could you do real quick so that your phone stayed on you so that people could continue to track you or so that you might have an opportunity at some point to call out for help through your phone? I play this game with myself all the time. And I think the thing is that the criminals probably are like the first thing they want to do.
Oh, they want your phone.
Is get rid of your phone. I just find that interesting. But yeah, that's definitely an option. We did spend so much time on our list that it basically became our episode. So we really could call it a day here and then do another episode that covers
Elon. Yeah.
Part 2?
A part 2, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about a part 2 right after this episode?
Sure.
Back to back.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
We got carried away, didn't we?
We did.
But it's you said it's right. This has been a huge change over the past, decade of really how this has branched.
Streaming. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
You waved her off. You're like,
Yeah.
thank you.
Done.
No, but like when I was saying there were two things that have sort of been major changes in the past couple of decades. It's been social media, and I couldn't think of the other one. The other one is streaming. That's had a huge effect on the way we consume media. But
Cameron's on Snapchat now.
perfect.
I've just been fiddling with it. Sorry,
Perfect.
guys.
Amazing. So anyway, sorry. Yes, back to what you were saying, Katie. I apologize for interrupting.
To kind of wrap up this episode, you have to understand the power of social media and how it really does have a huge impact, and that we are rolling into an election season. And so social media is going to be huge. I remember the last presidential election, the last presidential election, there was a lot of people that were unfriending people. It was becoming a huge battle. People were getting,
It's going to happen again.
It's going to happen again, but also like more of on a friendly nature. We're going into football season, and that becomes a really fun kind of rivalry and kind of go teams and a little bit of healthy trash talk back and forth through social media outlets. But it impacts every aspect of it. It impacts your education. It impacts your relationships. And it also, your financial, because you can, in one way, be swayed by so many ads that, hey, you want to buy this, but also it gives you a source to really vet different companies and figure out what's the good and what's the bad before you make a big purchase. So it's like anything. It's good in moderation. It's good used wisely.
Yeah.
And understanding what it can and can't do, because my biggest issue is that people try and use like TikTok and things like that to educate themselves on all aspects. And you have to know the limits of it. Like when we talked about ChatGPT, like it only can give information up to a certain point. A person on TikTok talking to you about what stocks you should buy or how you should allocate your budget or things like that, they're speaking to a mass. They're not speaking to you individually. And so I just hope that everyone takes everything on social media as it is and don't try and make it more than it is.
Indeed. I guess if I had to say anything about social media in terms of providing any sort of critique, it would just be that social media has a tendency to amplify the echo chamber that a lot of people are already in. So regardless of what beliefs you have, what religious beliefs you have, what political beliefs you have, whatever you have, it might be wise every now and then to treat your social media the same way that you would treat your family dinner table. Avoid those topics that are going to cause controversy. Now, there is a time and a place for people to use, for instance, Twitter as the public square to shout your ideas from the rooftops and so forth, if you really have something that you want to advocate for. But it doesn't always have to devolve into a fight. And just remember that there are wide and varied opinions about every single topic out there. And if we can't at least be respectful of each other, then we probably don't deserve the toys. So, like...
Court's going to take all the toys away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too preachy, but I guess that's kind of a good way to wrap up the first half of what has now become our two-part series on the demise of X. And ladies and gentlemen, there is the closing bell. You have made it to the end of yet another episode of the Bullcast Podcast. And if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, then please feel free to go to your favorite subscription service. We're available on, I think, most, if not all of them, to sign up and have our podcast beamed directly to your device every single Thursday at noon. If you'd like to find out more about Katie, Cameron, and Court, find out about our political leanings and our religious beliefs, too bad, because we don't put it out there. But if you'd like to find out more about us, just, as people and, sort of what's going on with us, and find out more about our podcast, you can go to our podcast website. That is bullcastpodcast.com. Drop us a comment. Suggest a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, or suggest a guest. If there's somebody you'd like to hear come on our show. Ladies and gentlemen, do you like pictures? Well, we already mentioned Instagram in this podcast, and we do have an Instagram handle. That handle is @BullcastPodcast. And we also mentioned Twitter/X. We have an X handle. That handle is also @BullcastPodcast. And we have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Bullcast the Podcast. We do not have a Threads handle as yet, but, eventually we'll probably get one of those too. So check us out there. Finally, if you would like to find out any more information about me, Katie, or Cameron, find out about the place where we work, which we have mentioned on occasion is Pickler Wealth Advisors, feel free to go to that company website. You can find out a lot more about us and what we can offer you, what we can do for you, the problems that we can solve for you. You can find out about our amazing team and our boss, David Pickler. That website is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have all of the information you need to succeed. So for now, I am Court.
I'm Katie.
I'm Cam.
And we're done.